Welcome back. It's time for Press Review. We take a look at what's making headlines, and we have quite interesting headlines today. And joining the conversation today, to my extreme left, we have Javas Bigambo, who's the governance expert. We have Honorable Tom Odege, who's the Nyatike Member of Parliament, as well as Omingo Magara, who's former legislator and governance expert with Accountability Institute. Welcome to the show, gents. Now, let's start with the Standard. One of the top political stories they're going with is ODM will dump NASA after Kibra poll. This is according to SG Sifuna, who derisively refers to coalition partners ANC, Ford Kenya and Wiper as parasites and leeches. What's your take on that, Honorable Magara?
Well, we were told during the handshake and during the changeover of Honorable Wetangula that there's going to be a divorce. It's going to be noisy and messy. But basically what we are saying also, some of our utterances as politicians also kind of repulse and even make some of our political outfits really unpalatable and almost like detestable. For example, you can say some things, but say it more decently. Because we are moving more from the fact of insults and name-calling to ideological thinking and issue-based politics. So that if somebody competes with the space, you don't have to just tell them all that kind of lousy things, including calling them names that are not printable, particularly when you know that leaders are supposed to be role models. Basically, you remember during 2007, yes, some of the people in the Kibaki's regime, when they stood to speak, they actually cost the president a lot of votes, to the extent that some of them were given a back burner. I think it's high time also that we need to sober up and speak, to your political opponents. It is not an adversarial thing these days. We must now look at the issue-based. When we used to insult leaders and other players to be relevant, that time is long gone, because the Constitution gave us, each one of us, a little space to enjoy and latitude to play, because this field is democratic. Therefore, if you feel that you're being squeezed, please let us use decorum in terms of expressing ourselves. But that, of course, we saw it coming, only that it is being said now loud and clear, because the time maybe is right.
I mean, when you take a look at the word coalition, it means coming together. It's not by force. They all decided it is in our favor to come together. So is ODM suggesting that no good has come out of the coalition, or what's up with this?
No, I think the coalition came in good faith, because remember 2013 we had COD.
Yes.
And then 2017 we now have NASA. Of course, basically, these outfits really help political parties get favor and the national appeal. That, as I said, you look at it keenly and see, you ask yourself a question during your news brief, why is it so like it's cutthroat business in elections? It's because a winner takes it all. And you become a winner, say, if you have a national appeal. This outfit gave NASA a national appeal for sure. And it had its own value. That now you are, of course, in glory. You do not rubbish the hand that also brought you that glory. And I believe also that in this arrangement, I think one partner, I don't know whether the registration was by a party or a coalition, but I think there's also an issue to do with funding. Because both, I'm sure members of ODM could be saying differently, but I think the threats of exclusion could have a bearing to who has the access to the political party funding under NASA. Remember, even during 2013, there was a dispute about coalitions disagreeing on what amount to get benefits. Now, whoever is carrying the pass could actually be carrying the whip. And I suspect maybe I'm not too sure whether ODM has got the whip, and that's why Sifuna is saying what he's saying, so they can remember the big loot, which is also kind of disrespectful, and of course not a gentleman thing of to do, particularly when you've already been pushed to get to power.
And this is, therefore you agree that this is some sort of sibling rivalry. And as they're being called leeches and parasite by Sifuna, we're having a Secretary General Eseli Simiyu for Ford Kenya saying, or dismissing Sifuna rather, by saying that ODM is the problem, but he understands where they're coming from. They want to cut links with the other partners so they can, don't demand their share of the political party's fund. Honorable Dege, what's your take on this as an insider?
Okay. Sifuna is my SG in party. He may be right on what he has said, but the words he has used are not very good. Because in this politics where we are, the politics of coalition will not end in this country. And maybe tomorrow we'll still need these people. So even if we have reached a level where we want pathways, it should be done with a lot of maturity, because tomorrow we might need each other. It should not be like making some people look useless. There's no one useless in politics.
Yes, but
so the words are too strong.
They are too strong. But in your view, what is the root cause of this friction?
I don't want to take it back where my seniors tried to allude to. But me, I want to talk about Kibra. I think the animosity is about Kibra because ODM had a cover candidate. The seat also was for ODM, but at the end of the day, Kalonzo has also thrown his weight behind the ANC candidate. So I think that's where they're coming from. But as a party, as a leader in the party, he ought to have consulted more before making such strong words.
Right. Yeah, it's quite strong. Now, Mr. Bigambo, what's your take on this one?
Well, it is the poet who said that turning and turning in the widening gyre, things fall apart and the center can no longer hold. That is what Mr. Sifuna is speaking to. What is self-evident to us and to any observer, and even the coalition partners, is that the center within NASA can no longer hold. And we've seen this right after the general election. We've seen this, how they have been struggling, during this by-election. And we've seen the interests of ODM. We've seen the interests of Ford Kenya. We've seen the interests of ANC displayed in Kibra. And like, you know, skyrocketing meteor within the gliding in the sky, we see that any political party in the face of any election, general or a by-election, has got one primary interest: to win that election, to win that seat, to add one more legislator on their side. Kibra wants, ODM wants to retain that seat. ANC has seen the interest of adding one more number on their side of legislators. Ford Kenya the same, and all these other parties. And so it is because of the interest of preserving each party as an entity, as an institution, driven by the very basic necessity and instincts of political survival. That is what, for example, would make Mr. Sifuna speak like this, aware too that they feel they are the superior brothers, the elder brother within the NASA house. And with this kind of pronouncement, which is of course politically allowed, it may leave some very bad taste in the mouth of the other coalition partners, or former partners, if you like, within NASA.
Because even initially it was suggested that even the Jubilee would not field a candidate, but eventually we saw a candidate being put out there. But then even these siblings, as you would call it, are fielding their own candidates. So it points to the importance of Kibra as a constituency. Why do you think it's that important for Kibra? Because we've seen other by-elections happening. What is so special about Kibra?
You see, if you don't occupy the capital city, then you don't have much significance within by determining the issue within or the centrality of politics and administration of a city. Look, even when there is an invasion, the enemy will want to capture the city and then make a declaration that we have won over
the whole.
So here, any party that has got more numbers of legislators or representatives within the capital, and also seeing how central and how popular Kibra is, it is a very good prize to catch by any political party.
All right, so all eyes will be on that by-elections. It's promising not to get any boring anytime soon, so keep ourselves updated on that through our bulletins and basically our reviews. But let's take a look at the top story for the Daily Nation. We're told debt driving Kenya to the tipping point. Now, what they're pointing to distress signs, a certain amounts of debt. Well, we're being told that 2.7 trillion, the total domestic debt as at June 2019. Then we have 3.02 trillion, the total budget, 500 million, the loan on which Kenya has already defaulted. Then we have 607.8 billion, the gap between the country's budget commitments and its expected revenues. And we're told that we are currently running empty. You can see that headline right here, right now on your screen. It's for failing to live within its means. The country could find it difficult to service debt when it matures within a year and bring itself to disrepute in the international money markets, if that hasn't happened already. Honorable Magara.
Truly, we are suffocating on that. There is no question about it. In fact, the longer we keep hiding our heads in the sun, the more hotter it becomes, and we're going to be catapulted from there to reality. I do appreciate the fact that, yes, the government has got an agenda, like I'm sure we want to be talking about the Big Four agenda, which must be realized. Remember, devolution is a very expensive affair, and then the other most expensive affair that it goes to wastage is corruption. My brother Odege, recently, they actually, I'm sure, with all the wisdom, they passed another extension of government borrowing. And this time they did that with a bit of wisdom and caution that from now on we expect this, that, and benchmarks. And really, unless we live to within our means and cut the cloth as per our size, we shall not be able to grow. But if you look at the economy today, really we're not performing well. The reason, you see, like everywhere you go, there's no circulation of money, and the economy is just dump, and the government is spending. And if the government doesn't spend, for sure there's not going to be taxes. If there are no taxes, for sure they're collecting and they can meet our targets. So the challenge we have is majorly wastage. I appreciate the president's agenda for, in fact, starting with the food security. That is what we must do. But are we living within our means? Should we do something else? And when we talk about fiscal policy change and tightening our belt, do we really mean it? Or when we say this, tomorrow you see a cabinet minister buying, for example, I'm not saying there are, a bulletproof vehicle, 4x4, and the minister doesn't even go to the villages, and like former ministers who used to go to the village and with their constituents, you can understand why a minister who lives in the city and lives himself by a chopper can buy a 4x4. There are too many in here. And we're saying, really, for us to be realistic, and I'm saying this with the fear of contradiction, we must cut our clothes to our size and then stop wastage and get value for money. I said in the set here last time that some of us don't want to get a grant because we must procure, because when I procure, there's something in for me. Really? That is our ill. But if we meant to live within our means, I am sure Kenya will be better. But I don't see, it looks like it's a knock-on effect, because if we go to the reds, we may not be able to borrow. And then that will be the start of a collapse of the economy. And I think we cannot do that. Some think tanks need to sit back and re-engineer this economy so that we can get back to where we started. And perhaps if sometimes wisdom dictates that beyond this line we can't, can we honorably say, please, draw a line and don't continue promising what we cannot realize. While
it might be true that we have a huge appetite for debt, but some would argue that to develop, you need capital of some sort, and the issue is how we manage said monies that we are borrowing, rather than just borrowing and spending it in all the wrong ways. Honorable Odege, what do you feel about this?
In fact, you have said it correctly. Yes. Our biggest problem as a country is not the debt. The biggest problem we have is how we use those monies. Like when you talk about borrowing to do SGR, then you double the price. Then when you double the price, that money not ending up doing anything extra for the people, but it's ending up in people's pockets. Then what are we doing? All these things we are saying here, if you ask me, we found ourselves there because of bad leadership. So long as you don't have correct leadership, you'll never do things correctly. So we'll blame everybody, but at the end of the day, we'll sit back and agree that so long as we don't have a correct people in the leadership, you'll never find yourself doing right things. Because like this economy we're talking about, Kenyans are crying, yes. We are borrowing, but the money is still not there. People are not seeing it. It's not circulating.
Yes.
It's not helping anyone. Like when you talk of the cap which we discussed in the parliament, majority of us were not for it.
Okay.
But they came and now there was nothing we could do because they are telling you where they are, even with the revenue and the budget they have, they cannot move.
Yeah.
Because they have lived beyond their means. So you have to decide, can we halt all the operations of the country? What do we do? So painfully, you pass something which you know very well is still going to deep Kenyans in a very deep hole. What we need to fix is leadership.
Yes, and these are not just political sentiments. There is a warning from the World Bank that says that the debt distress is at 43% of local borrowing as local borrowing matures. What do you feel about this one, Mr. Gambo?
Well, by account of our incessant lamentations on issues, graft, issues, debts, etc., if such were to be taken into account, right now all of us would become very eloquent imams and preachers. Because we have preached long and long enough.
Yes.
But the good thing, ironically, is that those who sit in the, in the powerful offices, those who are the helm of the reins of power, hear not, see not, and understand not these issues spoken by experts locally, spoken and even warned by experts globally, and the latest of those preachers institutionally are the Bretton Woods institutions, IMF, the World Bank. They have spoken and they have raised the red flag. That red flag, we are too blind to see it, especially through the eyes of our leaders. Now, let's face it, like my good, honorable, and esteemed panelists have indicated, what is wrong with our leaders to appreciate one good hard fact that when we reach out to development partners and seek their support for infrastructural development, that money should be used prudently. But then, the moment billions of shillings or dollars are extended to us, we double the cost of projects. We double the cost of construction of the Thika Highway. Now some others are sitting by the side salivating about, for example, new projects that are being entertained by our leaders in their thoughts. In the end, we may be a nation that remains, one, impressed by the vision of our leaders, but choked by the reality that it is going to be too costly for ourselves and generations that will come after us to sustain even life. Look at the cost of living in this country. Look at how day after day people are becoming poorer. Look at how institutions are finding it hard to sustain themselves. And then look at how our leaders are becoming wealthy the moment they get into high office.
It's quite sad, yes.
I went through an article where I saw some mortgages, about 20 billion. One bank was auctioning mortgages of 20 billion, meaning the people who had a livelihood support that with a projected view of how they are going to do it. I'm sure there is an analysis that is done thoughtfully that this person with this kind of flow, they will support this mortgage. When that happens, then it means something wrong has gone somewhere. And I want to agree with my brothers here that reality is that we need to put the hands where the mouth is. And that whatever is cooked to our mouth should be sufficient for us to chew and swallow. I mean, even gentlemen and ladies who are in leadership today, and I believe we are all seeing this, we can also turn back and say, stop and re-examine ourselves. If something is not working, can we do it differently? Because ideally what my brother said is, when we see a coin, we want to see what can I make out of it, not how can it benefit me. And that's why we are seeing the president saying, can we halt new projects? Somebody busy creating more so that they can get a window to scoop.
Absolutely.
And we are not punishing crime and graft as it's supposed to be.
And it reminds me of a certain parable in the Bible about, the talents. Now, let's take a look at page 2, which has to do with KCPE. Today is the last day. School owner examiner held in raid on cheating. And obviously, we are having the CSS having pitch tent in various areas of the country just to ensure everything is going on smoothly, but these hiccups that the government and the cabinet secretary was George Magoha was trying to ensure don't happen. Obviously, there's always one person who would try to push the envelope, and this apparently, according to today's paper, is a teacher from Hester School in Olkalau who is pictured there covering his face as a police officer escorts him. And there's a very interesting picture on the top page of the Daily Nation here. We are seeing the Deputy President chatting with 78 candidates at Ngong Forest Primary School and Precious Talent School yesterday before they sat for their papers. So it's ongoing, it's the last day, but what's your take on how
really,
it has proceeded so far?
You are rightfully said that it is like a cutthroat business for Kibra election because the winner takes it all. The moral of this story is that I need to be there to be number one so that I can, because the schools, some of them are doing business in terms of the enrollment, for instance. I think even as we try to run away from this system of education that 4 years are just about to end, so that we don't have this cutthroat business, what do we resort into after this event? Because something else will come up. Yeah. For instance, what we need to really agree is that it's a moral consciousness of our hearts, not exactly what people preach that we do. We have been saying, well, we don't go to rank schools, but you can see there's still the appetite for space and visibility and money making. It starts from a political class of that scramble into the children, because there is going to be a reward if you do X. Yes. Not that somebody is going to benefit by your behavior in terms of touching lives, but when you at top, then you are the blue-eyed boy or a celeb. Yes. We're saying that we need to change that mindset and be able to train our people about the inner self and not the physical thing.
Honorable Dege, your take on the KCPE exam?
I'm a bit interested because when you look at now, you go to government offices and you find the whole government in the field in the name of trying to curb the cheating in the exams. There must be a failure somewhere, a very big failure somewhere. I don't think this thing is necessary.
Really?
By sending everybody out there to go and do something which we're supposed to be going on automatically. These are the ways of eating government money for nothing. I can tell you.
Maybe it points to how severe the problem was.
Even if it is severe, why don't we have structure? Why don't we have structures from the grassroots to deal with this? As opposed to idea of sending everybody from Nairobi to go to the rural areas, as if all those rural areas there is no government.
Okay, Mr. Bigambo, what's your take as we conclude?
I am impressed.
Yeah.
I'm impressed when I see the Cabinet Secretary for Health checking how healthy the pupils are. I'm impressed when I see the Minister for Internal Security checking whether the pupils and schools are secure at the time of exam.
Right.
What a pity.
It is.
Where were they to ensure that these pupils were healthy throughout the year in readiness for the exam? Because to check whether pupils are healthy at the time of exam, not healthy enough to prepare for the same exam, it is to turn logic on its head. To check whether schools and the pupils are safe in the time of exam, in fact, it is more confounding to any logical mind, and tells me, and I agree with the two good gentlemen here, that much should and could have been done throughout the year, so that now these cabinet secretaries should sit pretty in their offices and see how things are working out, to see the results of their hard work, the work of their hands throughout the year. Now when we see kids or pupils being fed with bread, in fact, look at even the very manner in which the bread is contained.
In a bucket of some sort.
And then you can see the road there. In fact, it's in a field, it's dusty.
Yes.
You expose these kids to that, giving them bread without water, perhaps with some hot tea. And the exams themselves are hot on their heels. Let's face it. This is a remarkable demonstration of a government that pays less attention to police.
Yeah, clearly there is a problem somewhere, and obviously with all that attention, still some cheating is being reported, or attempts at cheating. So that concludes our press review for the day. Very interesting stories have been covered, or a story that we didn't get a chance to look at is one about a hired hitman to kill a lover who then shot himself, and this is encompassing members of our police forces or police service. So take a look at the dailies and get yourself informed. But for now, we take a short break. When we come back, we'll have more for you right here on Morning Express.